Thank you all for joining. Before our esteemed guest enters into his presentation, let's give students a chance to introduce themselves. Love to learn a little bit about you and your background. So first, Olaf Dahl, love to learn where you're located, what your major is, and why you took this course.
Hello, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, yeah. So I'm from Arizona. I'm a senior in computer systems engineering, and I took this course because a lot of my courses are mainly centered around obviously engineering, and I figured that trying to dabble into entrepreneurship would be helpful for my career goals.
What are your career goals?
I mean, eventually I want to obviously not work for someone, but work for myself, and I feel like that would be in like the way of like software engineering, or because obviously I don't think that I'd be able to like make like a computer chip company or anything like that, but one day if that is in the cards I would go for it. But talking about like making solutions for people and making value for people as
Excellent.
a software engineer. So
Excellent. Well, there's a ton of opportunity out there to do that, and a lot of great companies to get started and learn, like Mark and I were able to do at Carrier before he broke out and did his own thing. Let's do another introduction. Is it Anya? I'm not going to try the last name because I know I will butcher that, so I'll let you say it, please. Anya, could you please introduce yourself? What are you studying in school, and why did you take this course on entrepreneurship? You got to go off mute, Anya. Okay, Anya's having mic difficulty. How about Anusri? I'm also going to screw that one up. Excuse me. Anusri. Anusri, can you please correct me in how I say that?
It's Anusri.
Anuthi. Very nice name. Again, introduce yourself, please. Why? What do you study in school? Why did you take this course?
Okay, so I am majoring in CS, and I decided to take this course to learn more about entrepreneurship and how to take an idea and I guess figure out what like customers really want, like when implementing that.
Excellent. And you're in Arizona as well?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you all for joining. I know it's for extra credit, so we won't want to try to keep you too long. I want to introduce our guest speaker, Mark Ladd. I had the great pleasure of working for Mark for many years when we both worked for the Carrier Corporation. The Carrier Corporation is the reason why you all are able to live in Arizona. 115 years ago or so, a brilliant entrepreneur called Willis Carrier invented air conditioning in New York City. He was setting out to solve a problem of dehumidifying an industrial printing press, and accidentally found out when you dehumidified a room, you made it cooler. And by doing that, invented an industry that made the population of the entire American South popular, or possible. Mark was an engineer there and held many different roles over many years, and now is an entrepreneur. And he's a very, very accomplished professional with an interesting take on where the industry can go in the future for air conditioning. So I'm going to turn over to Mark to share his experience and his journey on both entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship.
Thanks, Brian. Good to see you again. And it was definitely my pleasure working with you at Carrier as well. I was so happy to meet you there and to continue to stay in touch with you until now. So thanks everybody for joining me today. I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story and about context, business context. So about me, worked at Carrier for 16 years until 2023 when I founded a company called Rookstack. And Rookstack's goal is to change the way that we buy heating and cooling. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how we are trying to do that later on. But now on to context. I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but when I graduated college, I didn't feel like I knew what I wanted to do entrepreneurship wise, and I didn't know what would be the right choice for starting a business. So I looked at a lot, or I noted down all my ideas, and I would analyze them, and I would keep looking for the right idea. And it took until I was 37 until I finally started my first business. So let's talk about business context. What is context as it relates to business? Well, it's all about the situation that you are in and the situation around you. So you've probably heard people say there are no bad ideas. Well, in business, there are bad contexts for ideas. Take like electric cars. Maybe a great idea in 2010, but in 1990, when gas is less than $1 a gallon, not the best context for that idea. Or maybe you figured out how to encrypt data an order of magnitude better than we can do it right now. And all you'd need to do is take 2 years off, dedicate your life for those 2 years to coding nonstop. But the idea of quitting your job gives you a panic attack. Well, then your context for that business opportunity are probably not a good match. And maybe you need to think about something smaller that you could do in your evenings while you keep your day job until the business is off the ground. So here's an example of a business that I thought about starting, but it wasn't the right context. So I said that I kept a journal of all the ideas I came up with. This is one I wrote down in the early 2000s. At the time, I wasn't aware about anybody else doing this. So I wanted, for those that are just listening and not reading the slides, I wanted to use computer vision and AI to detect and pull weeds to help farmers protect their crops naturally and save them time and labor and reduce pesticide use. You know, in the early 2000s, the external factors were probably right for this. I think the industry was ready for it. Market was probably ready for it. I didn't get too deep into this concept to really check and see if there was competition for this idea at the time. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. But I didn't do that because I realized that I didn't have the right capabilities to do this. And even if I did have the capabilities to do this, I was never going to be able to compete with the big players in this segment. If I was lucky, maybe I could develop a technology and a big player might buy it, but it'd be completely up to them. They could decide to develop their own technology and I'd never be able to compete with them because I don't have their market access or scale. So this is the right idea for John Deere, but it's not the right idea for Mark Ladd because of the context. So just to kind of touch on this a little bit more, you don't see a lot of successful new entrants into mature capital intensive industries. Tesla is one of the very few examples of a new entrant into a mature capital intensive industry that was successful. And Tesla was really only able to do it because they arrived at the advent of a new disruptive technology, electric cars, and they were able to raise close to $1 billion before their IPO. So unless you've already successfully built a company and raised capital, thinking that you're going to raise close to $1 billion to enter a capital intensive industry is probably not a good assumption. So the context of that, a business opportunity in a mature capital intensive industry isn't a good context match. You know, as mentioned earlier, you know, making chips, another tough industry to enter unless you're already a big corporation with experience raising big sums of money. So how do we think about context? Think about the investment that you're making as an entrepreneur when you commit to a new concept. It's not only the time and the capital investment, it's also the opportunity cost. It's a big commitment. So it's important to think about the context. You want to map the landscape. You want to analyze what's out there. And if you don't know the landscape of the industry that you're trying to enter, spend the time to understand it. It's worth your time to figure this out first. Go to a trade show, or better yet, get a job in the industry. That's what I ended up doing. I didn't know what type of business I should start. Ended up getting an MBA. And the advice I got from the professors there was, before you start a business, you better understand that segment. And there's no better way to understand a segment than working in it. So I got a job, started working, and started finding a segment, or picked a segment to start understanding. It happened to be the HVAC segment. And ultimately, that was where I was able to find an idea with the context that I thought worked. But it's not just about the external factors. Think about your internal factors alone, or as well. And think about what resources you're going to need. Fortunately for resources, there's a lot out there to help entrepreneurs in this country. But you want to have some of the skills necessary for what you're trying to do, some of the core skills necessary. It's best to be able to have those skills yourself, and then you can look for sources for the other less core skills to the business that you're looking at. There are a lot of incubators and grants and mentorship and training all available out there. Grants and incubators tend to be competitive. So you can't just assume that you're going to get those, but be aware of what's out there. And I think you've got a good idea and have the right proposal, then you should apply and see if you can't take advantage of some of those opportunities. So now, mapping the context. I just wanted to make sure everybody didn't go through an entrepreneurship class without seeing a SWOT. There's a lot of different frameworks you could use for looking at context, but a SWOT analysis is one of the most common business opportunity evaluation frameworks. So it's something everybody should know about, but if you go searching out there, you can find other frameworks that you could use for looking at context. But SWOT just stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it just kind of forces you to try and look at those 4 areas and write down what you think those are. Putting pen to paper helps crystallize your ideas and really helps you think about what those areas are and how you're going to address those. So what I want you to think about when you're thinking about entrepreneurship and context is that it's a lot like prototyping. It's not static. So in any business plan, it's built on a set of assumptions. And your goal as you begin your business should be to, as quickly and cheaply as possible, construct experiments to test your assumptions. So one of the common assumptions in a business is price. If you've got a new product that you want to build and you think you can sell them at a certain price and make a profit, well, if it's a new product and you're picking a price out of thin air, then you need to figure out if the market will truly bear that price before you invest all of your time and treasure into building the capability to manufacture that product. So figure out how are you going to test that assumption. Maybe you build a small number of these products by hand and try and sell them, or survey potential customers. But you need to figure out how to test that assumption and all of your other assumptions. And you want to do it as quickly as possible so that if you figure out your assumptions are incorrect, you can pivot. Even if you figure out you don't find your assumptions are wholly incorrect, you're going to learn so much in this exercise. It's going to have you reevaluate your plan for the better. You will find many positive learnings from this, I promise. So after talking a little bit about context, I'm going to talk about my story and how I use context to find my opportunity that I'm working on now. So after about 16 years in industry, looking for an opportunity with the right context, it finally felt like the right time and the right opportunity. What I decided to do was to leave my job to build data-driven solutions for making the purchasing process for home heating and cooling simpler. While I was still working at my corporation before I quit my job, my evenings, I looked at the landscape and the market. Things felt right. While I was at Carrier, I worked on a team that was working on this problem. We had a solution. We had an e-commerce platform that we launched, but we immediately scrapped the project because it was too disruptive to our current channel. That made me feel a lot better about the competition in this market. Made me feel like the big players like Carrier weren't going to get into this because they have their current channel, and this was going to upset their current channel. And so this would be an opportunity for a smaller business to create that didn't have the anchor of an existing business that would be upset by transforming the business. So there was a lot I didn't know. There's a lot of things I didn't know how to do, but it was software, and I felt I could find the resources I needed because they're pretty widely available. Finances are something you're never truly comfortable with. That's why I made that a question mark, but I felt like it was as good as it was ever going to be. So I decided to quit my job, and I founded a company called Brookstack and started working on making the process of purchasing home heating and cooling simpler. We got a grant from the Department of Energy, and we built an AI tool for sizing heating and cooling systems. We're working on commercializing that product right now, and we're also planning for our next product, which is going to be an AI tool for selecting heating and cooling equipment. And our goal is to build a fully integrated e-commerce platform for purchasing HVAC and then the labor to install it and taking that nationwide. I don't know if this is going to be successful or not, but I put a lot of thought and effort into finding the right context for a business. So hopefully it will pay off. And I hope that if you are interested in being an entrepreneur, you can find an opportunity and you'll think about the context of that opportunity when you do it. So that is what I've got. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it's been informative on the importance of context in business. And if you'd like to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions, so feel free to reach out.
Mark, can you, first of all, thank you, Mark. And can you go one layer deeper on the problem statement as it relates to the homeowner and what the value to provide to them as well?
So the current way that people buy heating and cooling most often is that they call a HVAC contractor who comes to the home and looks at the home and will give them a quote. And if the homeowners want to shop around, they have to do this a couple of times. They have to take off work to be home to meet with these contractors. So what Brookstack wants to provide is an opportunity for a homeowner to go shop online at their convenience, have smart tools that will use AI to help figure out what is the right equipment for their home, size it appropriately, ship it to their home, allow them to select from rated and reviewed contractors to install that product for them, offer them financing, and then schedule that installation, and then it would be delivered and installed. So a real simplification of the process for buying heating and cooling that will save the homeowners time, be more convenient, and then also it's going to save efficiency in the process, because There's no longer the cost of sending somebody to the home to quote the equipment, which is a major cost for HVAC contractors today. And ultimately, we think we can cut the distribution out of the model and go direct from factory to the home. So that's what we're trying to do, bring a lot of more convenience to the homeowner and simplify and take cost out of the process.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. I wanted to make sure we included that. I know you and I understand a lot about the industry from working in it for many years. I want to give them a fuller picture of that problem statement. I know many of you are students that might not be a homeowner. Don't sleep on HVAC. I was a journalism major who worked my way kind of luckily into marketing, and then got very lucky to end up in HVAC. And in most parts of the country, your heating and cooling system consumes 50% of your home's energy. So over the course of your lifetime in a home, you will spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to stay comfortable at that right temperature. And yet, you will only buy one of these units 1.5 times in your life. Because they last so long, the average person doesn't even buy 2 of them in their whole life because they move, and the unit lasts so long, and if you're lucky, you never have to buy one because they're so darn expensive nowadays. So Mark is trying to install this sense of like Amazon convenience into a process most people aren't familiar with, because it isn't like a car where you buy one every 3 to 5 years or every 7 years, and over the course of 20 years you might have bought 3 or 4 cars and get a sense to how to buy a car. For most people, buying HVAC is a foreign experience because you just don't do it many times in your life, and yet you'll spend a lot of money on that unit running it over the course of your life. And Mark, the thing I really want to stress that I think your problem helps solve, your solution helps solve, is that 50% of units are sized improperly to begin with.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's something that electric utilities are really concerned about. So they can hopefully be a driver for adoption of better technology to size equipment too.
So what that means for those of you, again, who aren't familiar, which is probably most of you, is like, imagine having like a semi engine in a Honda Accord, or a Honda Accord engine in a semi. That's often what happens with HVAC units. Maybe not to that extreme level, but the unit they put in is either just a bit too small or just a bit too big. And because of that, either runs too much or doesn't run enough. And can, as a result of that, can either cause the unit to run more than it needs to and die sooner than it should, or the homeowner's never really quite comfortable because it's just not the right size, right? So it's a super interesting industry, and I think it's hopefully interesting to you all in Arizona, because half the year you run your AC nonstop, 24 hours a day. You're one of the few parts of the country that is like so incredibly dependent on this technology. And what Mark's doing, if he's successful, could have a huge impact on saving homeowners in places like Arizona a lot of money, having the right sized unit in a home. So I know we went a few minutes over. We kept it fairly brief, though. I know we're here for extra credit. Any questions for Mark? He's a fellow engineer. So don't be shy about throwing out some curveball tough ones if you got them. Okay, sounds like we're good. I appreciate everyone's attendance, and I especially appreciate you, Mark, for sharing your journey. And the SWOT analysis is especially helpful. I remember the first time I was introduced to that, really changed my thinking, not just about business, but about life in general. Thinking through your threats and weaknesses is something we should all be doing all the time. And I think a lot of us take advantage of our strengths, but we sometimes forget about the weaknesses out there and the threats that are presented to us. So everyone, thank you all so much for joining us. It's 5:30 Western time. Go enjoy your evening with your friends and family, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.